Welcome back. This is a continuation of the previous session, and I want to believe that the animation that I ran was helpful to help you understand more on the structure of the neuron. So in the last section, we classified the types of neurons based on the direction in which the impulse are moving. Now, this session, we are going to classify the neurons based on the number of the dendrites that are arising from the cell body. So before we look at each of them, let's look at the structural organization of neurons, how they are arranged, what are the relationship between the three of them. For example, in this diagram here, the first part is the sensory neuron, and as you can see, it is connected to the interneuron, which is actually found within the central nervous system, and this is a structure, or this is a part of the body that you call the spinal cord. The interneuron, as you can see, it is entirely located in the central nervous system. So the blue part, the blue one represents the sensory neuron. The green one represents the interneuron or associative neuron or connector neuron, or sometimes we call it the relay neuron, and most commonly it is called the relay neuron. Then the last one is the motor neuron. The motor neuron. So the motor neuron arises from the central nervous system, that is the spinal cord, and then one of its end is connected to the effectors. But for the sensory neuron, one of the dendrites, or the dendrites, are actually connected to the receptor cells, and we said receptor cells are located on various sense organs, either the skin, the ear, the eye, the nose, and even the tongue. So we've said that we have another way of classifying the neurons based on the number of dendrites or dendrons that are arising from the cell body. So in this case, we have different names that are given. For example, in the first picture that we have here is one of what we call the bipolar neuron that has a single axon and a single dendrite. And this is very typical for a relay neuron. This is our cell body, and therefore from the either side of the cell body arises two projections, one modified into a dendrite and the other one being an axon. The other one is the unipolar neurons. These ones have a short single process leaving the cell body, for example, as can be seen in the sensory neuron. Look at this structure here. So there is a short, where my cursor is pointing at here, there is a short single process that is arising from the cell body, and then it is connected to the axon, and therefore such a neuron, we call it unipolar. Remember, unipolar, uni means one, so it's a single or just one dendrite that is arising from the cell body. And then the last one is the multipolar neurons. The word multi means many, and therefore from these there are many dendrites or extensions from the cell body, as always seen in the motor neuron. Now, the motor neuron, typically part of its cell structures are actually located within the central nervous system. For example, this end here is actually found within the central nervous system, but the axon, this terminal end here, they are found, or they form a synapse with those of the motor neuron, and therefore they are outside the central nervous system. Remember, another way of classifying some of these or identifying some of these neuron is looking at the position of the cell body. When the cell body is entirely within the central nervous system, either the brain or the spinal cord, and therefore such a neuron is a multipolar. And together with that, the sensory neuron as well has its cell body located within the central nervous system. Cell body located within the central nervous system. And for the motor neuron, the cell body is entirely found within the central nervous system, but the other dendrites, they project outside the central nervous system, and as I said, they are connected via synapse to the effectors at the other terminal end. So that is a basic classification of neurons. Remember, number one, we said based on the direction of the flow of impulse, whereby we said we have sensory, we did say we have the motor, and also the relay neuron, which we said relays impulses within the central nervous system. And then we have another way of classifying or giving these neurons their name, that is based on the number of dendrites or dendrons that are arising from the cell body. If it is one, we call it a unipolar. If there are two, bipolar. If there are many, as seen in the motor neuron, we call that a multipolar neuron. So I want to believe that you're going to pay attention onto this on your own. Try drawing these structures and try labeling them, and in each of the labels provide its function. In our next lesson, we are going to look at the reflex action, and I believe that you will be enjoying. Thank you.